The sun bleeds through a veil of mist, casting a gold-gray pallor over the crooked timbers and frost-bitten eaves of a sleeping town. A bell tolls once, hollow, dragging. Its sound drifts through the morning, like the last breath of a dream. Two shadows move beneath hoods dark as ravens, their shoulders hunched against the bite of dawn. Between them, a stretcher sways quiet, solemn. Upon it lies the tanner's boy, Gerard. What was once a child of noise and hide-drenched laughter now lies wrapped tight in linens graying at the seams. The blush of decay has already begun to seep through. A dog yelps and scampers backward, tail between legs. The shopkeeper, across the lane, stills his broom, his lips murmuring something brittle and old, Latin half forgotten, faith half remembered. This is not death in glory or grief. This is death as function. In this age, the grave comes not with ceremony, but with structure, with laws, with fear. The plague has made the human body breathing or not a risk, a riddle, a right to be sorted. Each death is a labor, not of mourning, but of maintenance. The clergy, gaunt beneath their wool and worry, do not weep. They calculate, they cleanse, they witness, they mark, because the dead, if left, ferment disquiet among the living, among the spirits, among God's ever-watching silence. As the procession passes beneath a weathered arch, carved with vines and angels worn smooth by wind, a small girl steps forward. She says nothing. She simply extends her hand and drops a brittle sprig of rosemary onto the shrouded boy, a charm of old, a child's spell for soul passage. It lands soundlessly, but the body shifts, just slightly, as though acknowledging. The men do not pause. The stretcher creaks onward. Behind shuttered windows, faces blink and vanish. Curtains twitch, a throat is cleared, a prayer half-formed and abandoned. No one follows, no one wails, no bread is broken in remembrance. Only the ledger will speak of Gerard now, his name scrawled beneath yesterday's lamb prices, beside a smudge of ink. Outside the tannery, a man waits, pale, with ash on his sleeve and chalk in his palm. The guild witness. He steps forward, and in a practiced motion, draws a single line upon the door, curved, crooked, and final. The death mark. The workshop is sealed. No hides, no hands, no commerce. The stench of leather still clings to the air. Inside, the tools lie still. A knife left mid-cut. A scrap of cloth frozen on a peg. The boy's breath long gone, but his warmth still faint in the wood. In the far distance, church bells begin to toll again, louder now, calling not for one, but for the collection of many. The hour of souls, the hour of listing. The two beadles carrying Gerard do not look up. Their eyes are downcast. Their hands, cracked and reddened by lime and cold, grip the stretcher like penance. They've walked this path too many times, past the well where no one draws any more, past the baker's sign swinging in wind that carries nothing but soot, past the iron gate that creaks even when still. Each step is a ritual, each moment a thread woven into a tapestry of sorrow that no one will hang. In the graveyard, shallow mounds mark those lost in haste. There are no headstones, no dates, only rocks and twine crosses sagging in damp earth. A man with shovel waits, his eyes sunken, his boots soaked in yesterday. The body is lowered. No sermon, just a breath drawn in by one, released by another. They sprinkle lime, not petals. They mutter rote phrases, not remembrance. Yet something ancient stirs beneath it all. The way the girl dropped rosemary, the way the dog whimpered, the way the wind paused, if only for a moment, as Gerard's linen met the soil. Because even here, among rot and routine, the soul resists erasure. Even here, grief claws quietly through duty. A crow lands upon the church roof. It watches, and then it cries, a sound like a scream swallowed. The beadles turn and walk away. One rubs his hand where the stretcher handle pressed deep. The other glances over his shoulder, quick, almost guilty. Back in town, life breathes in the spaces death left untouched. A hammer falls in the blacksmith's yard. A girl sings softly, as she draws water with covered hands. Bread bakes, smoke curls, light finds its way again through cracks, but the space outside the tannery remains still. Gerod's father has not emerged. Inside, he sits by the hearth, staring at a scrap of hide his son once cut too thin. He does not cry, but the silence around him grows heavy. In the cathedral that night, a candle sputters. Wax weeps. A monk, thin as shadow, finishes copying a name into the book of passings. He pauses, quill in air, then writes nothing more. The ink dries. Outside, the moon rises, bone pale and indifferent. Somewhere beyond the hills, the wind carries the rumor of another fever. And so the next chapter waits not with fanfare, but with a whisper. A child's cough, a door shut too quickly, a silence that feels rehearsed. Tomorrow, the bell will toll again, and someone will listen. Fog coils, like pale serpents through the narrow alleys of Salang. It slips beneath doorways and over stone gutters, brushing against the flanks of rats and the soles of bare feet. The air is cold with purpose. Somewhere beyond the cathedral, the parish bell tolls once then again. Its second note splits the darkness like a blade into bread. Before sunrise, the town shifts, not in preparation for market, but for morning. Shoes are pulled on backwards. A cloak is wrapped twice, tighter than usual. Eyes meet less. By the old mill just before the bend in the stream, a shape lies half hidden in frost and bramble. It is the shape of a man, or something that was. The baker's boy found it. Sent to gather water, he returned pale and panting, clutching his bucket as if it might shield him from what he'd seen. He stammered no words, only pointed. That was enough. Now the rhythm of morning is rewritten. The clatter of shutters delayed. The scent of rising bread spoiled by the thought of what crows had tasted first. In Salang, as in many medieval towns, there is no coroner to call. Only the ward reeve, ancient and sharp-eyed, steps forward. He does not speak. He lifts his hand. The bell ringer nods, climbs, and pulls the rope once more. A third toll. A call for the priest, for the washerwomen, for the scribes who hold ink like judgment. Death, unclaimed, spreads like rumor. And this one was not ours. Not born of Salang, not wed here, nor confessed. A stranger, found curled beside the mill, limbs frozen mid-grasp as if pleading with the soil to remember his name. He is not whole. Scavengers have worked him. But still visible upon his belt, like a relic defying rot, is a scallop shell, the mark of Santiago. A pilgrim, a walker of the holy road, one who gave up hearth for penance, one who counted the blisters on his feet as prayer. Now his hands are blackened, curled inward, clinging to threads unseen, and beside him, untouched, a scroll sealed in wax. No one dares open it. Not without the bishop's voice, not without trembling, because sometimes parchment carries more than ink. The villagers murmur. They cluster in twos, never alone. Whispers catch on breath. He was cursed, they say, or chosen, struck down by angels for sins unknown. The miller's wife swears she saw him move even after the frost had sealed his mouth. The shepherd refuses to pass the bend now, not even by daylight. The butcher, bold and red-faced, crosses himself thrice, each time slower. Truth matters little. The body alone rewrites the town's beliefs. If only for a day. A procession begins. Small, solemn. The reeve leads, his staff marking the earth with soft rhythm. The priest follows, slower than usual. He does not sing. He does not chant. His lips are tight, as if afraid the wind might steal a blessing and twist it into curse. Behind them come the scribes, dragging cold inkpots. Then the washerwomen, hands hidden beneath folds of wool and shame. They wrap the body in discarded sailcloth, coarse, stained. No linen is spared, not for him. Linen is for kin, for those who might be remembered, and this man, whoever he was, belongs to no one here. The path to the grave leads not to the churchyard, but beyond the walls, to the field of strangers, a place where the ground itself holds no promise. Neither blessed nor damned, simply forgotten. Here lie the plague dead, the debtors, the silent. The hole has been dug already, the soil thrown in silent heaps. As they approach, a crow cries from a broken parapet. Its voice cracks the silence like a prophecy. No one looks up. They lower him. Hands shake, ropes slip, but no words are said. No final rites, no naming. Only the wind dares speak, curling through the hollow left behind. And when the last clump of earth falls, it is not the priest who lingers but the baker's boy. He stands still, a crust of flour still clinging to his sleeve. His eyes are locked not on the grave, but on the scroll left behind in the church, still sealed. He will dream of it. He will wonder what truths it carries, whether it is a prayer, or a curse, or simply a name written in a language that no longer has a tongue. In the days to come, no one will speak of the stranger again. The scroll will remain on the vestry shelf, gathering dust. The shell will vanish. Perhaps taken, perhaps buried, perhaps simply crumbled by time. But in the hearts of those who walked that path today, something remains, a hairline fracture in the stone wall of belief, a tiny breach. Because they followed the rituals, they did all that law and church demanded, and still the silence felt wrong. The fog thickens again by dusk. The wind shifts east, and somewhere far beyond the hills, another road opens beneath another pilgrim's feet. The next chapter stirs not with bells, but with footsteps in ash. A woman waits at the edge of the forest, her hands red from work, her eyes hungry with knowledge. She has buried many, but she is searching for one, and she does not fear the scroll. The chill inside the chapel slices deeper than the frost outside. It seeps through wool and bone, curling in lungs like incense turned bitter. Beeswax and damp stone cling to breath, and under the vaulted ribs of the Abbey of St. Mathilde, cloaked figures gather, silent as smoke. She lies atop a bier, hands folded across her breastbone, fingers laced with the fragile rosary she never let go. Her skin is pale, the hue of ash just before wind claims it. Her hair has been cut rough, uneven, freshly shorn, the mark of shame. Once she wore a veil, or nearly did. She was a novice, a sister in waiting, bound not yet by final vow, but claimed by the rhythm of bells and prayers, of fasting and silence. And now this, the bell tolled 9 times at dawn, each stroke a sentence, each echo dragging through the stone cloister like the hem of her old habit. 9 tolls for a woman, even one who died, uncertain. There are rules here. When a daughter of the abbey passes, her body must be washed in lavender water, wrapped in undyed wool, kept from the gaze of the moon. But hers is a contested death. They found her in the woods, barefoot, bleeding, a relic clutched so tightly in her fist that her fingers cracked open like bark in winter. No one knows what brought her there, or who she ran from, or to. Some whisper of possession, others, of a man in the hills. The elder sister says nothing, only rubs her thumb raw over her crucifix, and avoids the word love altogether. Inside the cloister, the nuns walk in pairs silent, like figures in a forgotten tapestry. Their eyes are cast low, but they glance, sideways, at the bier. Sister Isabeau, young and newly robed, cannot resist. She kneels, presses a fingertip to the linen-wrapped feet, flinches, too cold, too real. Death, even wrapped in ritual, hums with a finality no vow can soften. Outside, the grave digger sharpens his spade. The whetstone sings a long, slow, sorrowful note. It sounds almost like a psalm that lost its words. Beneath the herb garden, near the roots of sage and yarrow, the earth has been turned. Here lie the forgotten, the nearly women, the not quite saints, those who died with questions stitched into their final prayers. The garden was chosen not for beauty, but for secrecy. This is not a grave for those the church embraces. This is a grave for the complicated dead. The sexton walks ahead, candle in hand. Its flame flickers, dancing violently, as if it knows the soul behind him still hesitates, still hovers, still waits to be named. The body is lifted. No hymns rise, no scripture spoken. The wind moves through the cloister like breath through hollow bone, carrying nothing but the rustle of habits, and the scent of lavender turns sour by rain. The earth receives her gently, the spade speaks, soil falls in steady rhythm. No name is carved, no stone placed, only the relic is buried with her still clenched in hand, still unknown, and the questions remain, pressed beneath the surface like seeds that will never bloom. In towns across Christendom, abbeys are sanctuaries of last resort, places where the dead can be folded into sacred soil, when the outside world has already sealed its doors. Here come the illegitimate, the accused, the shamed, here lie those whose stories would stain a parish ledger, but even here, truth lingers. And this woman, this sister who almost was left behind, not only a silence, but a shape inside it. That night, the abbey windows remain dark. No bells ring for matins, no psalter echoes from the choir loft, only the wind chants, a quiet revolt of ritual. Because sometimes, death does not seek absolution, it demands reverence without resolution. Inside her cell, Sister Isabeau cannot sleep. She stares at the single taper flickering by the icon of Saint Agnes. Her finger still tingles where it touched the linen. She wonders if the woman had once sung here, if she ever laughed, if she loved truly, deeply, dangerously, and whether heaven still opens for those buried without a name. At the edge of the garden, the grave digger wipes rain from his brow and listens. No sound comes, but he swears the herbs sway differently now, as if something beneath them breathes. He does not return his spade to the shed. He leaves it there, blade in soil, as if tomorrow someone else will need it again. By dawn, the candle in the chapel has burned down to wax and wick, and the wind is rising, because far beyond the abbey, in a hamlet where fog wears the faces of the lost, a scroll is finally broken open, its wax seal cracks, its parchment unfurls, and inside, the truth waits sharp as a thorn, soft as a psalm, written in a hand the priest will recognize but never admit aloud. A cart lurches through the dusk, its wheels thick with slush, straw, and frozen muck. The wooden frame groans with every jolt, iron rims screeching like wounded beasts. Upon the cart lie 5 corpses, limbs tangled, twisted like driftwood thrown ashore. Their cloaks are stiff with frost, hair matted with blood and bile. They no longer resemble the living. The driver's face is hidden, a mask stuffed with mint, with wormwood, with hope clings to sweat-drenched skin. But still the stench seeps in. Iron, rot, the stink of panic made flesh. This is Béziers, a walled town, once rich with bells and wine, now thick with silence and smoke. It is a plague year, and the bells no longer ring for each soul. At noon, the tower tolls once, only once, for all who perished in the night. No names, no chants, only a single echo, swallowed quickly by the wind. The cart creaks past shuttered homes and boarded chapels, where icons weep behind soot-streaked glass. The driver does not look up. He has seen too much. His hands, cracked and red, grip the reins like penance. Each corpse he carries once had a name, a favorite meal, a sin unconfessed. Now, they are numbers. Now they are weight. He crosses the river where the water once glittered with fish and light, and enters the charnel field. What was once a pasture is now a trench, expanded each day, deepened, hastily dug. Monks chant from behind a screen of linen, their faces hidden, not out of humility, but fear. They do not bless the bodies by name. They do not kneel. They murmur old Latin beneath their breath, syllables worn down by repetition, like stones smoothed in a current. One by one the bodies are tossed from the cart. No linen, no coin, their mouths still open final protests, frozen mid-scream. No one closes them. There is no time. In a thicket just beyond the trees, a boy watches. His hands are wrapped in rags. His eyes are dry, too emptied for tears. Among the pile, he has seen her, his mother, her braid still intact, her wrist bare the charm she once wore now strung around his neck, a brass key. She said it opened nothing, but kept things safe. Now, it is all he has. In towns across Christendom, plague unraveled the contracts of death. No confessions, no preparation, no ritual of light, only haste, and silence, and lime. Priests abandoned parishes. Bishops rode away. Faith became as fleeting as warmth. The earth turned gray not from frost, but from ash. Clothing burned. Homes scorched. Graves dusted with lime like sugar on spoiled bread. And yet still, there were gestures. The plague cart was washed at sunset. Buckets of river water sloshed over its sides, though they cleaned nothing. The grave diggers, 3 men with hollow cheeks and fingers like roots, lit candles each night. They lined them along the trench's edge. Tall tapers, melting slow. Wax dripped into the dirt, little rivers of gold feeding the mouths below. They said the dead could still see light, that for a moment the spirit lingered in the socket of the skull, watching the flicker. Some believed the flame was a door, a way out, a passage to somewhere kinder. The monks never confirmed it, but they did not deny it either, and so the candles were lit. This night they burned steady, 10 in a row, windless, each flame standing tall like a prayer that refuses to bow. The boy steps backward. He does not cry, he does not speak, he clutches the brass key in his palm, and the teeth bite into his skin. He wants to scream, to bury her himself, to take her from the heap and wrap her in the blanket she once embroidered with songbirds. But he is small, and the grave is wide, and the world is too quiet now to hear such cries. He slips away through frost-bitten weeds, every footstep a promise not to forget. Behind him, 1 candle flickers. It gutters, shudders, and dies. The others remain, steady, burning. In Béziers they say the air itself is cursed, that the wind carries breath like blades, that the rats speak in riddles, but even so the grave diggers return each day. Even so the monks chant behind the screen. Even so the cart wheels on, because death, once a visitor, has made its home here. It lives beside the hearts. It whispers in alleys. It stares back from empty cradles, and still somehow they make room for light. Not hope, not quite, but something like it. A flicker, a ritual that refuses extinction. Tomorrow another boy will watch, another charm will be clutched, another candle will be lit, and in the silence left by bells too weary to ring, someone will remember that the soul, even in darkness, still seeks a path to glow. The stone gate creaks open beneath the weight of morning fog. It groans like something ancient, remembering pain. A figure enters slow, hunched beneath a robe frayed at the edges, its colors once ecclesiastical, now faded to the palette of bruises, patches of crimson and ash, of gold dulled to brass. The robe carries memory, but no authority. Brother Thomas walks alone. In his hand a missal bound in cracked brass, pages spotted with wax and rain. At his belt, a bone-handled blade, small, ceremonial, sharp enough to part cord or silence, and tucked within his pouch, rattling softly, grave salt. The morning is still. But the task ahead is not. Today he will bury a traitor. In Dornham, a township ruled as much by fear as by God, there are rules for the dead. Some go to the cathedral vaults, wrapped in linen and prayer, some to the town yard, among the tax-paying faithful. But those condemned by the sword or rope, they go to Crossbones Field, a place of dirt, unblessed, a strip of earth gnawed thin beneath the gallows' shadow, where grass refuses to grow and names are forgotten before breath leaves the throat. Today, the condemned is no thief, no vagrant or blasphemer. Today, it is a knight, Sir Reynold, once of silver spurs and crimson banners. Now, a body in 2 parts, head in a sack, torso wrapped in what remains of his tabard, stripped of title, stripped of tongue, stripped of the story that once made him noble. The crows know before the priest. They line the wall, twitching, watching, wings stilled by something like reverence. Brother Thomas approaches slowly. He does not look at the sack. Not yet. He kneels, lights a wick soaked in pine tar and crushed incense. Its smoke curls toward the sky, lost in fog. He whispers a psalm, but not aloud. For traitors no rites may be spoken. No chorus sung, only silence, and soil. Yet rules are not always followed, not by men like Thomas. He sprinkles the grave salt, 3 pinches, one for the man Reynold once was, one for the sins never proven, and one perhaps for himself. The ground here resists. His blade strikes stone before it finds depth. This is earth that does not welcome the dead, only endures them. The sack is lowered first. The head, once golden-haired, once kissed by queens and crowned by oaths, falls without sound. Then the body, stiff, bloodless, curled in a shape no knight was meant to wear. Thomas watches, not long, not mournfully, but attentively. As the soil returns to cover the betrayal, the wind picks up. A single ribbon flutters free from the sack. Red wool, once a sash. It catches on a briar at the edge of the field. It dances for a moment, then holds. Thomas sees it. He does not retrieve it. Let the land keep what it will. In Dornham, oaths are rope, knotted, pulled tight, stained with old blood, and the dead are sorted like cargo, holy, clean, dishonored, lost. No grave here bears a name, no cross, only stones, scattered, perhaps thrown, perhaps placed. But Thomas carries a different measure. His ledger is not inked by bishops, it is carved in ritual. Each burial, even of the condemned, is a crack in the wall that separates sacred from cursed, and so he does what others would not. He draws a cross not in paint, not in blood, but in ash. From a pinch of cinders kept in his pouch since last winter's fire, he places it at the foot of the grave, between 2 rocks. A mark for no one to see, but for God to know. The crows do not move. They remain still, as if witnessing. Their silence is louder than 1,000 prayers. Brother Thomas stands, brushes earth from his knees. He does not look back as he walks the length of the field, only forward, along the same narrow trail he has walked for 12 winters to bury those the town would rather forget. Each time, he brings the same blade, the same salt, the same muttered psalm that no one hears. He has buried heretics, and cowards, children, and killers. But this one, this night lingers heavier, perhaps because once, long ago, Thomas served under a red banner himself, perhaps because the sash in the briar matches something in his memory, or perhaps simply because some names, no matter how erased, still echo. As the sun pierces weakly through the fog, a single crow lifts from the wall. It circles once, twice, then glides toward the town. The others remain, watching the ash, waiting. A frost-laced wind whistles through the stone arches of the cathedral crypt. It snakes along the floor like memory, cold, unseen, impossible to stop. Torches sputter in their sconces, flames flickering with doubt, casting shadows that stretch like mourners across the tomb walls. Beneath the nave, where few feet ever tread, a coffin is lowered, not with haste, not with song, but with the solemnity reserved only for saints or kings. Yet this is no crowned head, no canonized martyr. This is Lady Yseult, healer, midwife, suspected heretic. The stone groans as the ropes ease her downward into a sarcophagus older than any man who watches. Its carvings are worn, its lid cracked from centuries of weight. It belonged once to a priest of the old rite, long forgotten, long forbidden. In the city of Carlin, truth is never simple. Death and divinity collide in alleyways and sanctuaries alike. Lady Yseult cured the bishop's niece of a fever no monk could name. She whispered to ravens in the dusk. She left honey at crossroads. She read books inked in Welsh, and still she bled when cut. She wept when alone. She prayed, sometimes, when no one watched. When she died, the cathedral's elders argued for days. One demanded fire, another, water, a third proposed silence. In the end, it was compromise that sealed her fate. Not above, among saints. Not outside, among sinners. But here beneath the stone, where no public gaze could reach, they buried her in linen twice. The first, white and marked with runa-symbols of warding, of remembering. The second, stamped with a red crossbold, ecclesiastical, a sign of surrender or suppression. No one asked which, only 4 mourners stand witness. 2 silent nuns, hands hidden in their sleeves, lips moving in private psalms. A mute gardener, who lowers his head but does not kneel, and the bishop's niece, her face veiled, her shoulders trembling, her fingers clasped around something hidden in her cloak. She has not spoken since the fever broke. Only Lady Yseult ever understood what she saw in those hours. Now the coffin rests in the crypt's oldest vault. The lid is drawn, the wax prepared. Above them, in the high altar chamber, the choir begins a hymn. Latin drifts through marble, but down here, in the catacomb hush, there is no echo, only breath, and the warmth that lingers strangely upon the sarcophagus stone. It is said the dead leave warmth only when they are not finished, when something remains unsaid, undone, unclaimed, but none speak of it now. The final candle is snuffed, the lid sealed with molten wax, red as blood. It hisses where it touches stone, and the bishop himself, robed in velvet and indecision, signs the burial record with a flourish. Not with her name, not Yseult, not healer, not Hirik, but hospita. Stranger, guest. A word that allows forgetting, that denies memory its shape. Above, incense swirls toward a vaulted ceiling. 1,000 voices chant. The organ groans. Faith continues. But below in the vault, the air holds steady, and outside, in the bishop's frost-kissed garden, a raven lands. Its claws dig lightly into the white crust of soil. It tilts its head once, twice, then calls out. 3 times, sharp, measured, unmistakable. Some say ravens remember faces, others say they carry souls. Lady Yseult would have said neither. She would have fed it honey. In towns like Carlin, stories shift like candlelight. What was feared becomes myth. What was loved becomes suspect. The dead are rewritten until their edges no longer cut. But sometimes, the stone remembers what parchment forgets. Sometimes, warmth lingers in places where it should not. And sometimes, in the quiet after the hymn, a breath is felt, though no lungs remain. The bishop's niece lingers long after the others have gone. She kneels beside the sealed vault, pressing her fingers to the wax until it cools. She does not pray. She does not weep. She removes something from her cloak, a sprig of dried lavender wrapped in a red thread. She places it on the stone, then rises, and walks away. No one will record it. No one will ask. But the crypt holds it now, like a secret cupped in old hands. And the raven still on the garden wall watches, as though guarding, as though remembering, as though waiting for the tale to be told again, in the right tongue. The clamor of hooves fades into silence. A knight dismounts at the edge of Elna, where the town yields to orchard and stone. His armor is scratched, soot-dusted. His cloak, singed at the hem, smells of smoke and ash. He carries a bundle small, velvet-wrapped, pressed close to his chest, like an unspoken vow. Inside the chapel, a woman waits. Her hands are clasped, unmoving. Her eyes, dry. There are no tears, only stillness, so deep, it feels like prayer. The bundle is her son. The knight crosses the threshold without words. The chapel floor is dirt, softened with rushes. A single candle flickers on the altar's edge, its light stammering like a voice that cannot finish the line. In Elna, children do not die publicly. Not like this, not like him. He was only 5, drawn by a baker's mule and a scattering of birds. He wandered into the fields. An arrow found him before his name could be spoken by a priest, unbaptized, uncounted, unblessed. The church forbids bells, forbids mass, declares silence, but grief finds its own language. The knight kneels beside the widow. He lays the bundle down with reverence, not like a soldier, but like a brother. He loosens the velvet slowly, carefully, like unveiling a reliquary. The child's face is still, peaceful, lips parted as if about to speak, a violet tucked behind one ear, his small hands folded, not by custom, but by care. He was loved. The priest does not come. The altar remains undisturbed, but the mother lifts the child in her arms, not as a burden, but as a promise. There is a place beyond the chapel, past the fields, past the frost-bitten hedges, near the edge of the orchard, where wild flowers bloom. even when the earth should sleep. It was once a shrine to a saint, no one remembers, a stone circle grown soft with moss, half swallowed by time. They go there, no procession, no psalm, only two figures in the cold, a mother and a knight, walking with quiet resolve. The wind carries no bird song, only breath, only footsteps. They bury him beneath stones shaped like stars carved by pilgrims long dead, now serving as markers for a life barely begun. No cross is placed, no scroll, only the mother's fingers pressing herbs into the soil, lavender, sage, rue, a garden of memory, a litany of roots. The knight says nothing, his hands are scratched, trembling. He draws his sword not to brandish, not to bless. He kneels, presses the blade into the ground beside the grave, lets it go. It sinks slowly into earth, a gesture older than any creed. In towns like Elna, children are miracles, and burdens, born with souls too fragile to bear the weight of doctrine. When they die before baptism, the church calls them lost, limbo bound, neither damned nor saved. And so the town forgets. They avoid the mother's gaze. They do not speak the boy's name. His toys are burned, his shoes left on doorsteps for the poor. But she remembers. She does not stop. Each season she returns. She kneels at the mound, clearing frost, planting anew, chamomile in spring, marjoram in summer, rosemary in fall. She sings not hymns, but lullabies, not Latin, but the name the priest would not write. And all the while, the blade rusts gently beside the stone, its hilt kissed by dew, its edge dulled by time, not war. No one steals it, no one dares. It is both marker and offering, a symbol of a knight who understood that protection is not always about violence, that sometimes it is about silence, about standing beside the forgotten. And so the grave endures, unblessed, unspoken, unyielding. The garden grows, seasons come, children are born and baptized. But somewhere beyond the orchard, a little boy sleeps beneath herbs and starstones, wrapped not in velvet, but in memory. And the wind, when it passes through the chapel arches, carries a faint scent of lavender and iron, of ash and violets, of love too deep for bells to contain.